Donald Trump is sending in the troops, this time to Washington, D.C. And this is just the beginning, he says.
We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to lose our cities over this. And this will go further. We're starting very strongly with D.C., and we're going to clean it up real quick, very quickly, as they say.
Trump says he wants to crack down on rising crime in Washington, D.C. Too bad it's not going up there. In fact, it's going down just like it is everywhere else. Violent crime in particular is falling. Here's Trump's FBI Director Kash Patel noting how murders have fallen across the country in the exact same press conference in which the president said that rising crime is why he needs to send in the troops to D.C.
And the murder rates are plummeting. We are now able to report that the murder rate is on track to be the lowest in U.S. history, in modern recorded U.S. history, thanks to this team behind me and President Trump's priorities.
Just as an aside, anybody with a passing familiarity with American crime and law enforcement knows that the height of crime, especially violent crime, came during the late 80s and early 90s at the height of the crack epidemic. Since then, crime rates have been plummeting. Even the spike during 2020 at the height of the pandemic was nothing compared to the murder rates and other violent crime rates that we saw in the early 1990s. I started out as a crime reporter at the newspaper in my hometown. It's been admittedly a while since I've dug into things like the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Program and its annual reports, which came out last week. But I was surprised myself to see how low the rates have gotten, especially in places like Washington, D.C. and other big cities. So if crime is actually down in D.C. and everywhere else around the country, why is Trump sending in the troops and taking over D.C.'s police department, instituting an emergency curfew, and generally doing things that no other president has ever done in the district? There's at least a couple possible answers to that. One of them is that Trump sees homeless people in tents, I kid you not, on his way to go golfing in Virginia on the weekends. That could be one reason why the president is so fired up about crime and homelessness in D.C. But here's another possible explanation. As Trump was holding his press conference talking about sending in the troops and cleaning up D.C., we learned that a federal judge had denied the Justice Department's request to unseal grand jury documents in the Epstein investigation. Justice knew that was coming. They probably even knew that it was coming today, which makes today a perfect time to announce something unprecedented and scary sounding and insane, like sending in the National Guard to Washington, D.C. As with everything coming out of the Trump administration, this is also just a test of our institutions like the courts and federal law enforcement. Legally, the federal police that are already roaming the streets of Washington, D.C. under Trump's directive are not allowed to detain or arrest anyone who's not on federal property. Members of the National Guard being deployed to the city also don't have arrest powers. But that's really not the point. Whether it's a distraction or Trump being pissed off about homeless people in D.C. or whatever the case may be, him just wanting to give red meat to his base of MAGA supporters who want to see democratic cities cracked down on by heavy-handed law enforcement, whatever the exact cause or causes are of this unprecedented action, it is a test for democracy. Obviously, Trump offhandedly threw out there that this is just the beginning and that he's going to do this in other largely democratic and largely black cities like New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. But those places, because they're not Washington, D.C., are quite different. They are governed more directly by the Posse Comitatus Act, which prohibits the military from engaging in law enforcement operations on American streets. So Trump's threat to deploy the military or National Guard or federal law enforcement to places like Baltimore and Oakland and Chicago, which he mentioned all of those places in his press conference today, is really just that. It is just a threat. But threats work. Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser has been capitulating to Trump in recent days and weeks. She's been trying to work with Trump, probably to stave off him sending in the troops to D.C., and it totally failed. Meanwhile, in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis, who is doing everything he can to mimic Trump's authoritarianism, his threats worked too. He threatened to remove from office anyone who didn't go along with his anti-immigration policies. The mayor of Orange County ended up capitulating to DeSantis and ordering his law enforcement to cooperate with ICE on their enforcement operations there.
You're here this afternoon because I signed the ICE agreement. Yes, I signed the damn thing because we really had to. We were put in a tough spot. I can't let our entire board of county commissioners and myself be removed from office. I say that with all sincerity because of the role the responsibilities that we have here within this community to take care of our community and look out for our residents. I did not want to be in a position where the governor will have the opportunity to insert his minions in the roles to lead this county.
Obviously, in these cases and more, the threats have worked. But the courts and some other institutions have held relatively strong under Trump's authoritarian threats and power grabs. While Trump isn't winning, he ain't exactly losing either.